Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. When you visit Oboro at the base after the incident with Princess Yuki, he is so out of his element that he doesn't even notice you come in. Yuki apparently sent a letter to his village as thanks for his help, which proves that he was lying about being too hurt to come home. The reason he's kind of out of it is because even though the elders know he's fit for duty, they told him to stay in Eorzea until they need him. Fortunately, he does have something to occupy his time. Captain Jack of the Rogues sent him a message saying some people from the east are causing problems again. That seems to happen a lot lately, so the two of you take a trip to Limsa to see what's going on. One of Jack's spies saw a group of pirates called the Krakens robbing a Garlean ship. That's not a problem. In fact, those are the only ships that pirates can legally rob, but it turns out the crew was made up of Domans who offered the cargo for safe passage into Eorzea. The captain took them up on their offer and smuggled them into the city, where they snuck off, leaving all of the cargo except for one scroll that they apparently are planning on selling on the black market. That wouldn't be a problem either if they hadn't broken their word. They said they'd leave all the cargo, but since they lied about that, there's no telling what else they're planning, so Jack wants to track them down. That requires you to hunt down some leads from your old rogue connections in the tavern, who happen to see your Doman targets. They left a little while ago and they said they were on their way to Wineport to make the deal of a lifetime. They didn't even try to hide what they were doing, which doesn't sit well with Jack, but that's not going to stop you from heading to Wineport. When you get there, your targets have stolen a whole caravan of alcohol and are headed to the Bloodshore. It sounds strange until Jack realizes that the liquor is just something to hold them over for the ride back home. They had been trying to steal the scroll and bring it back to Kugane. You catch up to them on the Bloodshore and they attack you, a mistake that too many people make, but the scroll is nowhere to be seen, nor is there any ship nearby. The whole trip seems like a dead end until a very familiar shinobi makes his appearance in a disguise that doesn't hide him at all, since he still stands in that weird teapot pose. It's Karasu, Oboro's best frenemy, and he tells you that the people you're after are already on the way to Kugane, disguised as members of the East Aldenar Trading Company. Karasu's actually surprised that Oboro did something dishonest and lied to the elders so he could stay in Eorzea, but he finds it funny that they didn't want him to come back anyway. Oboro wants to know why Karasu's even there, but of course the man's not going to just tell him. That'd be too easy, and nothing like Karasu at all. So instead he taunts you and teleports off. With Karasu being involved, things are bound to be more complicated than you thought, so you, Jack, and Oboro head back to his hideout to discuss what to do next. Jack wants to know if Karasu is a friend or a foe, which is a question that doesn't have an answer. He could be your friend at breakfast, then try to murder you at lunch. In any case, you'll have to head to Higashi if you want to hunt down your targets. Jack's not one to leave a job half done, but he doesn't know anything about the Far East, so it'll be up to Oboro to play the role of a guide this time. So the two of them head over to Kugane first to do some recon, and when they find something, they'll let you know. It doesn't take long for them to send you a letter letting you know that not only did Jack love the culture of the East, mainly the women, but they've got a lead on the scroll thieves, and they are dangerous, so he wants you to join them as soon as you can. When you arrive, you realize that you aren't the only person who Oboro contacted. Tsubame is there too to help on the scroll hunt, and to bring in some more help, Jack sent for Vakebe and Underfoot. They haven't made it yet, so Oboro takes the time to let you know what they found. The thieves are a group called the Garnet League, who are feared all throughout Doma. It's made up of the most dangerous members of the Doman Rebellion that had been crushed by the Empire. After their loss, they turned to banditry, and did everything from stealing things to murdering people. He doesn't know why they want the scroll, but they're far too dangerous to simply let them do whatever they're planning. The good news is they don't do anything to hide who they are, since everyone is too scared to mess with them anyway. They dress like the Sekisegumi, but they wear garnet colors to symbolize their group. So the four of you split up and put your stealth skills to use tracking down the bandits. You learn a good bit from eavesdropping. One important bit is that Karasu is working with the group, although they don't know who he is, and he's the reason you caught up to some of their members at the Bloodshore. So who knows what his game is this time. Either way, someone is supposed to be coming to buy the scroll, and they're paying a lot of money for it, even though they were late getting it there. Their client is supposedly extremely dangerous, and Zakuro, the woman in charge of the league, is a bit on edge because if anything happens to the scroll, their buyer will probably kill her and the entire group. And her being scared scares the entire league because Zakuro Brightblood is so crazy that she apparently dyes her hair red with the blood of her enemies. Literally. When you meet back up with the others and put together everything you all learned, it paints a pretty straightforward picture. The Garnet League stole the scroll from a Garlean warehouse for a customer who you still don't know, and was planning on sailing straight back to Kugane, but they didn't have the money to pay the Confederacy's Ruby Tithe, which is a toll that they make anyone pay to sail through their area. If you don't pay, they sink your ship. The League had to run from them, which caused them to get captured by the Krakens, which led to them getting brought to Lemsa, and here we are. None of that explains Karasu's involvement, but no one understands him anyway. Zakuro keeps the scroll with her at all times, and she and her people have rented a room at the Bokairo Inn with a nice hot spring. Jack found that the woman likes to stick to a schedule of grabbing tea from the tea house 3 times a day, which means there's plenty of opportunities to get the scroll from her, but you have to figure out the right way to do it. If what you do leads to a fight, then the Sekisegumi won't be happy, a problem that you don't want, so you have to be stealthy. While you plan, Vakebe and Underfoot finally show up, and of course the first thing on Vakebe's mind is food, followed closely by threats of cooking the next seagull that poops on her head. For some reason, the talk of food and bird poop gives Jack an idea. The next time Zakuro heads to the tea house, he wants Underfoot, Vakebe, and Tsubame to cause a scene to make the woman have to stop, while you climb up high and drop some fake bird poop on her head. That way, Zakuro will go to the hot springs to get cleaned up, where she'll be forced to put the scroll in a basket with her clothes to keep it from getting wet. You'll steal it, while Jack and Oboro keep her distracted in the hot springs. So last time, Tsubame stripped to distract some men. This time, Oboro and Jack will do it to distract a woman. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called equality. The plan is so ridiculously simple and complicated that it's worth a try, and it surprisingly works, letting you make off with the scroll. Oboro's eager to see the scroll, and he's surprised to find that it contains the forbidden mudra of summoning, something that was a legend used to scare children, mainly because if the summoner loses focus, the beast he summons will eat him. At one point in time, the scroll was gifted to the King of Doma to be used in a rough situation, but it was lost when the Garleans invaded and hadn't been seen since. Master Gakkai, who had led the shinobi at the time of the invasion, had thought the scroll too dangerous to use even during the fight with the Garleans, and would have rather let the nation be captured than use it. Of course, he could have already been planning his betrayal then, so there's no way of knowing if the scroll was as dangerous as he said. The Garleans would have never known what the scroll was, so the question is, who could the mysterious buyer be, and how did he even learn about the scroll in the first place? Regardless, Oboro plans on taking the scroll back to his village, but Jack promised to bring it back to the Krakens, and he always keeps his word. The two argue about who gets to keep it, but they're interrupted when Karasu decides to make another appearance, and of course he wants the scroll for his new master, and he's willing to trade it for the friends of yours who he captured, Tsubame, Vakebe, and Underfoot. You hadn't seen them since they distracted Zakuro, and now you know why. Instead of making the trade now, Karasu decides that he can have a bit of fun with you all, because he's insane, and he leaves, letting you know that he'll contact you once he's set up a little game. Going along with this game, even to save your friends, is a bad idea, so Oboro reaches out to Princess Yuki for some help, which she was so eager to do that Jack wants you to watch her before she does something stupid and makes things worse. Considering the fact that she should have been there hours ago, she might have already done that, so you and Jack search the city for her while Oboro waits around just in case she's running late. You find her hiding from Akagi because she's not supposed to be in the city, but she had to repay her debt to you whether her people wanted her to or not, so she asks you to send Akagi on a false trail so she can do what she needs to before he drags her home. You tell the poor guy that Yuki hopped on a ship to Eorzea, which makes him panic and run off to the docks. Yuki didn't want to lie to him, but after she heard about how dangerous the guy is that you're up against, she knew Akagi wouldn't let her help, so she had to do what she had to do. Oboro's her friend, and he needs her. That's all noble and stuff, but leaders have responsibilities, and they can't just run off all willy-nilly when they feel like it. Hingashi may look like a peaceful place to outsiders, but there are multiple warlords fighting for control, so it isn't hard to believe that one of them hired a shinobi to help them get an advantage over their enemies. Unfortunately, even with all of her connections, Yuki hasn't been able to figure out who's pulling the strings with this whole scroll business, which means the question of who Karasu serves is still unanswered. Of course, Karasu shows up again to interrupt your discussion. I'm getting the feeling that he just sits on rooftops watching you and waiting to make that perfect Darkwing Duck entrance. He's finally figured out what game he wants to play. It's called Kill or Watch Your Friends Get Killed. Pretty creative. Your friends are being held by the Garnet League on the Isle of Beko, and for you to win, you have to kill Sakura and her men before they kill your friends. If you do that, he's willing to let you do what you want with the scroll. See, that's why I like Karasu. He's like the Joker. His games and plans make no sense to anyone but himself until it all comes together at the end, where you have to hope your death wasn't his goal, because if it was, you never would have saw it coming. Whether he wants you dead or not, you have no choice but to play along, so you all rush off to the Isle. To make things more interesting, Karasu told Sakura that you were coming, so being sneaky would be a little difficult. But for 3 ninja and the leader of the rogues, you get in undetected and free Vakebe. Watching you sneak around is apparently too boring for Karasu, so he attacks Oboro, alerts the gang, and turns things into an all-out battle. Still, you manage to free Underfoot before Zakuro joins in. It's easy to see why she was so feared, but there was never any doubt about who would win the battle. However, Karasu still has Tsubame, and he'll kill her if you don't give him the scroll. Because Oboro's kinda dumb, he actually thought Karasu would keep his word, but the insane shinobi tells him that the whole purpose of making promises is to break them, which is news to me, but okay. With no other choice, Oboro tosses him the scroll. He releases Tsubame, but another shinobi makes his entrance by finishing off Sakuro. His name is Hanzo, and he's the man Karasu has been working for. He gives his master the scroll, only for the man to incinerate him with a fireball jutsu. Hanzo is the leader of the Kage Kakushi clan, who, by his claims, were the first users of ninjutsu, which would explain why his fireball was strong enough to one-shot Karasu. Lucky for you all, he has business to take care of, so he leaves without attacking you. Everything that happened is a lot for Oboro to process. Not only did the Forbidden Scroll fall into the hands of a man who seems to hate Doman Shinobi, but he killed Karasu, who, regardless of their issues, was Oboro's friend. Tsubame does have some good news. The scroll Hanzo has only holds half of the technique. He needs the other scroll to actually use the jutsu, and the other half is in Oboro's village, and only the elders, a weird hermit, and Tsubame know of it. Oboro had no idea, but apparently the hermit never liked him much, so he never would have told him anyway. As for Hanzo's clan, Yuki's heard of them. They were well known for their battle skills, some people saying they were as strong as 1,000 lesser shinobi, but their village was wiped out by an angry warlord who killed all of the women and children, and the warriors became the prime targets on the battlefield and were wiped out one by one. It makes sense that Hanzo would want revenge for his ancestors' defeat, but it doesn't make sense why he seemed to hate the Doman Shinobi so much. Yuki has no intention of letting the man start a war in Hingashi, whatever his reasons are, so she decides to head home and find out what she can about Hanzo and his clan. Oboro wants to warn his elders because Hanzo is going to go there once he learns that he only has half of the scroll. Jack wants to come too since his mission's not done yet, but he sends Vakebe and Underfoot back home to run the Rogues Guild until he gets back. Apparently the captain's having a great time, but outsiders can't just walk into Oboro's village, so you have to wait until he goes and warns them that you're coming. He'll come back to get you if they don't decide to execute him for lying. When he comes back from the village, he seems depressed and he wanders off. When he gets like that, he usually heads to a waterfall to think, and you indeed find him nearby standing in one. He wanted more alone time, but you know him too well now for him to hide from you. Of course, Jack had expected to find him in front of the waterfall, not standing in it. What's bothering him is how he was welcomed back to the village. Instead of punishing him, they saw him as the hero who killed the evil Karasu. But Karasu wasn't evil. He actually helped Oboro find the real traitor, so he was the true hero, and even though Oboro promised to keep Karasu's secret, he feels bad about it. More so now that Karasu is gone and will be remembered as something that he wasn't. Jack decides to tell Oboro of the time you and the rogues saved Limsa, and Malala of the Yellow Jackets took credit for it. Jack was kinda salty about it, but he works in the shadows. He can't take glory for his actions, otherwise it would make his work harder. And while Malala wasn't a hero at the time, being seen as one has made her work to be one for real. Jack left out the part where he stole the earrings off of the woman's unconscious body, but the point of the story was to help Oboro realize his role in Karasu's story. He was the hero who could be visible. Hearing that makes him feel better, which is good because it's time to get back to work. Tsubame shows up and she's quite surprised to see Oboro standing around a campfire in his underwear, but she's apparently done as he asked. Since he went back to the village, he's been trying to find out why Hanzo has a grudge against the shinobi who were raised and trained under one of the original shinobis, Sasuke. Apparently Sasuke's past was so secret that even the elders know little about it. The only person who might know something is the old hermit, so Oboro had Tsubume contact Master Kamui so he could arrange a meeting. Since you are Oboro's student, that makes you an heir to Sasuke's legacy, and gives you the right to see the hermit and learn the history too. Jack's coming too because he's bored, and the hermit doesn't care as long as Tsubume comes. The hermit knows what you want him to tell you, and while he seems like an idiot, he actually remembers the story. A long time ago during the Age of Strife, there was a man named Hanzo I who led the Kage Kakushi clan, and he made a powerful summoning mudra. A lot of warlords wanted it, but Hanzo wouldn't sell it. It was only meant to be used as a last line of defense, and he wrote all of his knowledge down on one scroll and hid it. Later, an injured man showed up to the village having fled from a tyrant in Doma. The people healed the man, and after hearing the story, Hanzo got his student Sasuke to take the scroll across the sea and free the people of Doma. He wiped out the army in seconds, and Doma was freed, but Sasuke decided to stay in Doma and make his own village to train the Domans in the art of ninjutsu so no one else would be able to conquer them. After seeing what the jutsu could do, he was so scared of it that he split the scroll in half and sealed part of it away while giving the other piece to the king of Doma. Sasuke wasn't a traitor, but Hanzo's descendants didn't know about the mission. They just thought Sasuke stole his master's scroll and formed his own village. The information was helpful, which the hermit is happy about, but he'd rather never see Oboro again. Tsubume can come by whenever she wants. Before you leave, Yuki shows up with some bad news. Hanzo's clan has gathered its forces and are getting ready to march on Doma, so you all rush out to get ready to defend the village. The army's numbers are massive, but there's no sign of Hanzo among their ranks, meaning he's probably going to attack from your blind spot. So while you're all fighting his troops, Hanzo will likely circle around in the Azim Steppe and come up behind you all. The problem is they can't spare the soldiers to guard that area since they're already outnumbered, but if Hanzo's trying to catch you all by surprise, he's probably coming alone. So Oboro sends you to watch for the man. Jack hadn't planned on getting caught in a battle between two ninja clans, but if Hanzo shows up, he wants you to steal that half of the scroll for him. Hanzo does show up, disguised as the old hermit, and he laughs about how weak the Doman shinobi are since they can only seem to use 3 mudras. 4 were taught in his clan, and they used the 4th to create an army of clones so it would look like they had a larger army than they did. That drew away almost everyone from the village and let him turn into the old man to take what belonged to him. Now he has both parts of the scroll, and he's going to use it to wipe out the Domans, after he tests it on you. He breaks out the scrolls and casts the summoning jutsu, only to summon an army of bunny rabbits. Out of the shadows comes Karasu, very much alive since he used the same clone technique to keep himself out of harm's way. And of course he'd switch the scroll for a fake, because he would never give something so powerful to someone like Hanzo. Even though the man killed a fake, Karasu still takes it personally, so he decides, just for this once, to fight by your side and show you the real difference between him and Oboro. Hanzo has a few very powerful techniques, including making himself really big, which only gives you a bigger target. A big mistake when fighting both you and Karasu. The man never had a chance. With it all over, Karasu applauds your skills at Oboro's expense and heads off, wanting you to not ruin his reputation by telling anyone that he helped you. Of course, you immediately tell Oboro and the others when they show up. Oboro's happy to hear that his friend's alive, until he realizes that if Karasu had gave Hanzo a fake scroll, then he still has the real one. So it's back to Eorzea to once again hunt down Karasu, while Jack takes the fake scroll back to the pirates, because if it could fool a shinobi, it could definitely fool a few pirates. This concludes the 3rd part of the ninja storyline. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee for my work, sign up to become a member of the channel. Until next time, guys. Later.